You're listening to the Big League. A ton of stuff happened last night.
I think the Leafs have to win that one. This year, Toronto Maple Leafs are going to win Stanley Cup championship.
The Jays would pick up Bumgardner from the Giants.
Whoa. Quite a huge game. He put up 30 points.
You can't suspend him for that. You can look into it as much.
Could. Toronto Raptors raise the banner.
If they get by Boston, do you think they have a legit shot at winning the Stanley Cup this year?
You're listening to the Big League with Aiden Silphant and Connor Somerville.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're doing a video. As you can probably tell, it is Leafs related. You can't really tell because Aiden's in black, but he's in the Bieber shirt.
Yep.
In the old style Leafs jersey. Maybe jersey foul because it's got my name on the back, but that doesn't matter. We're doing a playoff preview. Spent some time last night sort of going through, looking at the stats and get an idea of how the series can play out. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting,
tough challenge. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's going to be a great episode. And I'm excited. Leafs playoffs is always an exciting time of the year. And yeah, we're going to try and break down this series as much as we can, give our predictions, even though we might not want to give predictions. It'll be a good one. So stay tuned. Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. And if you haven't seen, Leafs had a record-setting season, put up the most points they've ever put up before. Their star young player scored 60 goals. And as their reward, they get to play the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions in the first round, the Tampa Bay Lightning. What we're going to do in this episode is we're really going to go and sort of analyze the big parts of the series. So we're going to start off looking at some of the splits, comparing the two teams. Then we're going to look at the goalies because the goalies are going to be a huge part in this series. Then we're going to take a look at the lineups, potential lineups, because we had a bit of news. We're recording this on Sunday, May 1st. So we had a bit of news today drop from Running Skate and Sheldon Keefe's post-practice press conference. Talk about some injuries, which are related to that. And then do our predictions and be incredibly, incredibly wrong because we always are. Let's start off, though, with how the series between Tampa and Toronto went this season. 4 games, because they're in the same division, obviously. They split it 2-2, kind of. Leafs won 1 game in OT, 2-1, and 1 game 6-2. Tampa, on the other hand, won 5-3 in 1 game, and then like a week or two ago, they won 8-1 in what was a massacre. And I don't think Austin was playing.
Austin wasn't playing, and Braden Point wasn't playing for Tampa Bay.
Also, Shulgren was in that, wasn't he?
He was, yes. And yeah, that game just turned into a gong show. Like once Tampa started running away with it, the Leafs just went full Boston Bruins and just started hitting them and getting under their skin, which sets up perfectly for this series. So 2-2 on the season against Tampa, 2 games at home, 2 games on the road. They split 1 apiece each in each arena.
Somehow, I'm not really sure how this is the case, but Leafs averaged 4 goals a game compared to the Lightning only averaging 3 goals per game in the series, like the season series. Which I can't really figure out how that's possible, but
that's odd. Yeah. Because I know we beat them 6-2 in the game in Tampa, like maybe a month ago when Matthews got the Hattie. So there's a 4-goal difference, but then 8-1, you'd think that would kind of skew it a bit.
I think you
did a typo?
Yes. It was the other way around. Doing the quick math in my head, 4 games, Leafs scored 12 goals. 12 divided by 4.
Oh, okay. There you go. Nice.
So
that's why we're in sport media and not math.
I took these stats from Hockey Reference.
Okay, blame it on them. Yep.
But I probably just typed it out wrong. I screwed that up. Who cares? So very even series on the season. A couple of outliers. I'd say the 6-2, the 8-1. I think the 5-3 and 2-1 are probably more representative of what the series is going to be like.
You would think so. Yeah, for sure.
So they each split that series. They each split a game 1-1. In terms of the Leafs stats on the season, and we're going to go in sort of, I'm just going to run through everything and then run through all the Lightning stats.
Yeah.
For the Leafs, goals for per game, they put up 3.85 on average. That was good for third in the league. Goals against per game, however, 3.11, which was 18th in the league.
Mm-hmm. Which
Compare
is still
that-
improvement from previous seasons.
Yeah.
So like this strong, like honestly, one of their best defensive seasons, in recent memory. So 18th is like a decent spot to be out. It's not amazing. Like it's not, like a Colorado or Tampa. Tampa is probably a little bit higher than that in terms of defense, but much improvement from the Leafs defensively this year.
Tampa is a big improvement on that. For Tampa, goals for per game, 3.52, which was 8th in the league. So they don't score as many goals as the Leafs do. They still score a lot, but they don't score as many as the Leafs. However, goals against per game of 2.81, which is good for 6th in the league. That's a huge improvement on the Leafs. So they score a lot. They don't allow a lot. Leafs score a lot and allow a lot. We'll see how much that factors in. The biggest thing I think is going to factor into this series, though, is special teams.
Yep.
Leafs have an absurd special teams. Power play percentage of 27.19. I think that was number 1 in the league.
Yep.
Compare that to the Lightning's 23.64. Obviously, Lightning are still dangerous on the power play, but they're not nearly as good as the Leafs. Leafs are dangerous. And then you take a look at the penalty kill. Leafs, 82.4%. That's pretty good.
Very good. Yeah.
80.88. So about another 1.5%-ish difference between the Leafs and Lightning in terms of penalty kills. The series could very easily be won or lost if the Leafs power play and penalty kill continue to play as well as they have on the season.
And shorthanded goals, right? The Leafs are known for stealing the puck on the penalty kill and exposing teams' power plays. So, like, Tampa Bay is obviously a very good team. They have a great power play. Like, that percentage that they have is still pretty close to what the Leafs had. Even though I will say the Leafs they should be better on the power play. But Tampa Bay's had a power play that has been together for a few seasons now, or actually quite some time, like Stamkos, Kucherov, Hedman especially, and then Point, Palat, you could put there, Killorn. So they have a lot of experience. So I think Tampa Bay will be a little bit more aware, I guess, of the Leafs' ability to steal the puck and take it down the other ice and to the other end of the ice and score. I don't know if we'll be seeing as many of those breaks as we have seen the Leafs get in the regular season, especially because it's playoffs as well. You're tightening up defensively a lot more. But yeah, it's definitely a difference maker for sure. Like, Leafs power play has to show up, but I'm sure Tampa Bay's power play is, going to be equally as good, honestly. So it could come down to that.
Yeah. In terms of expected goals, it's actually, I was very surprised by this number because I didn't think there would be this much of a discrepancy, but the huge expected goals for on the season. The league average is 177.4. The Lightning put up 180.5 expected goals for. The Leafs, 208.8.
Jeez.
That's like they've scored more than 20, or they have 20 more expected goals than the 28. No.
Yeah.
Yes, 28. God, sport media math. They have more than 28 expected goals than the Lightning, which means they create a lot of chances. And it's actually very even in terms of expected goals against. Leafs, or league average, again, 177.4. Leafs, 167.2. Lightning, 165.
Wow, really close.
7. It's really close. So the Leafs create a lot of chances, but don't allow a huge discrepancy in terms of opportunities.
Yeah.
Another big part of this series is going to be goaltending.
Oh, for sure.
there's a big discrepancy in save percentage. Obviously, that's going to happen with Andrei Vasilevsky being Tampa's goalie, but Leafs save percentage on the season was a 915. Tampa, 925. That's a lot better than the Leafs.
Right. And then I guess like just goalies individually, Vasilevsky had a 916, I believe, and Campbell had a 914.
I'm not sure exactly what the breakdown was in terms of on the season, but I thought the numbers were really interesting when I was looking at them in terms of different scenarios. Because there's actually, like, you noticed a trend, especially with Vasilevsky. He's got a 921 save percentage at home compared to a 912 save percentage on the road. He's a lot better at home than he is on the road. 2.23 goals against average at home, 2.77 on the road. Obviously, that has a factor because the NHL, and I assume every goalie is sort of like that. Campbell is just the exact same in that regard. But yeah, big discrepancy there. And the Leafs have home ice advantage. So
yeah,
that could have a big factor on the series, especially with fans in the building. In terms of in wins and losses, though, that's where you really see a big difference between Campbell and Vasilevsky. Well, actually, both of them. Vasilevsky has a 1.98 goals against average in wins. That's really, really good. In losses, 372 goals against average.
Interesting.
Yeah. So when Tampa loses, Vasilevsky allows a lot of goals.
Yeah, decent.
When they win, he doesn't.
He's standing on his head. Yeah. And that's what's given them so much playoff success, right?
Yeah.
Like they're getting a lot of wins, and whenever they're closing out series, whenever they're I think every time after a loss or something, Vasilevsky has like a crazy record where he hasn't lost, after Tampa's lost a game in the playoffs in the past 2 years at least. And then every clinching game, he somehow gets a shutout. So he stands on his head when it matters the most. And the stats kind of speak for itself, but then also just, the eye test and experience, right? Like Vaz has won back-to-back cups. Campbell has yet to win a playoff series, right? So experience definitely plays a big role into it as well.
Campbell has a huge part in Leafs' success too. You thought Vasilevsky's stats were absurd. In wins, Campbell's goals against average, 179. That's unbelievable. In losses, 473.
Yeah.
That's a lot of goals.
Yeah, that's a crazy amount. Yeah.
Save percentage tells a similar story. 940 save percentage in wins, 846 in losses.
That's crazy, actually. Wow, I didn't know that. I really didn't think it was going to be that big of a difference, but yeah, Campbell has to stand on his head in this series, no doubt. Or at least just be decent, right? Like he can't have a save percentage in the 8s. No question about it. Like 9, 10 at least would be, the bare minimum, I think, for him.
Yeah, if the Leafs want to have a hope in winning, they need Campbell to play well.
Yeah.
And they need to get to Vasilevsky because, as the stats just showed, he is vulnerable. He can't allow a lot of goals.
Yeah.
You don't just put up a 372 goals against average in losses because you only allow 2 goals a game.
For sure.
So,
and also, like, he played 60 games this year as well. Like 63 games. They really overworked him, and they have Brian Elliott as their backup. And I wouldn't have too much confidence in Brian Elliott. I know he had a decent year. I think it was like 912 save percentage. But if something were to happen to Vaz, maybe because you overworked him, or maybe, an injury happens, then, that could be a big difference maker in the series, no doubt, right? Elliott, it goes in the net. So, just the workload will also be a really big factor. Can Tampa as a team, right? Like, are they going to be tired from, back-to-back cup runs or not? We'll see. There's a lot of factors in this series, honestly.
Yeah, Campbell's only played 49 games on the season, so he's played a lot less than Vasilevsky. And as you just said, a big factor on the series is going to be how can Tampa hold up? Because they've played a lot of hockey over the last 2-3 years.
They have
2 back-to-back Stanley Cup wins. takes its toll on you. And
Yeah.
they haven't had a huge amount of rest
I
because of
was
adjusted.
I was listening to Dangle. He put out a video today, and he was saying that like he's been hearing people say that a lot as well. Like Tampa might be tired back-to-back cup runs, and I do agree with that. Like going on, 4 rounds of hockey for the past, or 8 rounds of hockey the past 2 years definitely will take a toll on you. But his counter argument to that was the first year that they won was in a bubble, and they took so much time off in between the end of the regular season and the start of the playoffs that year. So they had time to rest, and it was a shortened season, right? They only finished with like 70 some games. And then last season as well, condensed season, they only played 56 games. And then the playoff games on top of that equal kind of a full regular season alone. So
At the same time, though, in terms of a counter to that, is Tampa have played all of that in like a year and a half span.
that's true. Exactly. Yeah.
So they've played a lot of hockey in a short period of time. In terms of just looking at the numbers, it's not actually that much. Like it's only, as you said, maybe 82 games.
Yeah.
But that's 82 games in such a short period of time with such a little amount of rest in between that.
Yeah.
And I think you just completely remove the 2020 season in terms of the regular season, just go straight to the bubble. And post that, they've played a lot. And I think that's going to have a huge impact, especially dealing with COVID and all that stuff. That takes a toll on you, especially traveling, all that sort of stress. I think it's going to be a big factor in this series is how can Tampa hold up? How can they continue to push to the
And also, like a lot of their guys or a lot of their core guys are on the other side of 30, right? Like Hedman, Stamkos, Killorn, Palat, Corey Perry, Maroon, I believe as well. And yeah, they got Kucherov, who's still like in his prime and points a little bit younger. But those guys have played a lot of meaningful hockey the past 2 years, and they should be tired. And also injuries, right? Like Kucherov has a long injury history the past 2 seasons. He could be out just like this if something happens. Stamkos is another guy who's been dealing with injuries. Point was injured like maybe a month ago.
This week,
right? This week
with an injury. It sounds like he's going to be fine to start the series, but he's banged up.
Yeah.
So it's injuries. It's sort of tough because Tampa don't have a ton of injuries in terms of notable ones. Obviously, there's the point, but then all I have is like Jan Ruta. That's like
who might not even play. Like he might be a healthy scratch.
Yeah, like an extra defenseman. Leafs, on the other hand, and I guess it sort of leads into our lineup discussion because there's going to be a lot of uncertainty going into this series of who will be available. We thought Andre Kasha wouldn't be available. He was a full participant in practice today. He's going to be a game time call tomorrow to potentially play. He's been dealing with a concussion since I think it was March 19th. Obviously has a lengthy concussion history, so you have to play that very, very carefully. But he sounds like he's very close. Rasmus Sandin sounds like he's very close. I think it's a knee that he's hurt.
Yeah, I think so.
I haven't seen any confirmation of that. He's potentially close. Michael Bunting probably won't play game 1, but they do expect him to play in this series. So I'd expect game 2 at probably the earliest, maybe game 3, game 4, once they sort of head down to Tampa.
Yeah.
But they're getting their guys back. And apart from that, the only injury they have is Pierre Mrazek, who's out with his groin. And it's your backup goalie. So who cares? He hasn't even been good this season.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, he could be the third string. Shalgren's been decent, I guess, better than expected, I want to say. Besides that 8-1 game against Tampa, which is, the team that we're playing. But it would be worrisome if we get to a situation where Shalgren has to come in, no doubt. That's why Campbell's got to be healthy, and he's got to be rolling, and he's got to be on his head.
If it isn't Shalgren, though, the Leafs do have some depth in that. Marley's wearing their color cup shirt underneath my jersey right now, but Marley's didn't make the playoffs. They lost to Belleville. which means they didn't qualify. So all of the Marlies players are available to the Leafs now, which includes Joseph Wall, who I think is injured, Ian Scott, who is also always injured. But
Michael Hutchison.
Sorry?
Michael Hutchison.
More notably, Michael Hutchinson and Carter Hutton
Yeah.
joined the team and was sort of starting to practice with them. And Hutton, that's a veteran NHL guy who's got experience in the playoffs. I think he was on St. Louis when they won their cup.
Oh, I didn't think about that, but maybe, yeah. Maybe he was backing up Bennington. Yeah. That could be right.
Or was that Allen? It might have been Jake Allen.
Ooh. Yeah, that sounds like a better one. Yeah.
At that point. But he was with St. Louis, and St. Louis obviously have made the playoffs a lot over the years. So that's a very viable option for the Leafs. I think they're a much deeper team when you look at the lines and sort of how the Leafs could sort of line up. I put it in, we have sort of a notes doc. I put in sort of the ideal Leafs lines for me in terms of how I think that they'd just be perfect. I don't think this will be how they line up because I don't think everybody will be healthy. But when you look at the extras outside of that lineup, you got Wayne Simmons, you got Kyle Clifford, Nick Robertson, Nick Abruzzese, Rasmus Sandin, Justin Hall, potential other extras, Joey Anderson, Carl Dahlstrom, Alex Steves, Semyon Dargachintsev. That's some really good depth.
It is, yeah.
At least compare this to Tampa. Their real only extras are Riley Nash, who that's a very good depth forward, defensive forward, Cal Foote, and Jan Ruta. Other potential extras, Alex Barré-Boulet, he's pretty good, Charles Hudon, Jamel Smith, Sean Day, Frederick Clayson, Maxime Lagasse, Gabriel Fortier, Darren Radish, and Remy Ellie. There's still some notable players there, but I don't think that's as good as the Leafs.
No, for sure.
Personally, I think that's going to be a big boost for the Leafs in these playoffs is that depth. Because with how I have the team lining up, I've got Pierre Engvall on the fourth line if they're fully healthy.
Interesting.
Well, who else would you put on the fourth line? Because you've got, let me run through the Leafs lineup in terms of my perfect fit, in terms of the forwards.
Yeah, let's see it.
Typical Bunting, Matthews, Marner up front. Second line, Kerfoot, Tavares, Kasha, which sounds like it could be the line for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Game one.
I think it would be Tavares, Kasha, Mikheyev right now. Because Bunting's out, then they'll move Kerfoot up to the top line.
Yeah. Third line, Mikheyev, Kampf, Nylander. Having Nylander in your third line is absurd. And then fourth line, Engvall, Blackwell, and Spezza. I don't know if it'll be Spezza. It sounds like it might be Simmons, potentially.
And Clifford. I think Clifford could even come in.
Because obviously Bunting is doubtful for tomorrow night's game, which means you need another player. So the Leafs are going big, potentially in game one. Defensive pairings, I think I have exactly how it's going to line up. Riley, Lyubushkin, Muzzin, Brody, Giordano, Liljegren, because Giordano Liljegren has been just absurd, and I desperately want them to keep him. Goalkeepers, Campbell, Kallgren, Shalgren. That's how I think in an ideal world they line up. Obviously, there are going to be injuries, and I think that depth allows you to really replace those players in the event of an injury. On the Lightning things, you've got the stacked first line, Palat, Stamkos, Kucherov. Second line.
Is that what it's going to be, you think? Stamkos, Kucherov, Palat? Because they could move Point up to the top line.
What it's sort of been for the last, potentially.
I think you froze for a second, but you're back now.
Oh, am I back?
Yeah, you're good.
I might have frozen. I looked at their lines for recent games.
Okay.
This is sort of the trend I noticed.
Interesting.
It was keeping Killorn, Cirelli, Hagel together, and then Point with Paul and Colton, And then the fourth line is like the only guarantee. And that's
Yeah.
Patrick Maroon, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, and Corey Perry. On defense, Hedman Cernak, McDonough Foote, Cal Foote, that is, and Mikhail Sergachev, Zach Bogosian. I just realized I put Cal Foote in as an extra.
I think Foot will play though. Like
I do too.
he's earned his roster spot, and that pair with McDonough has been good from what I've heard. And then yeah, you got Bogo on the last pair, which is tough to see because I liked him as a Leaf last year.
That third pair is insane with Sergachev, Bogosian.
Yeah, I'm really surprised about the Braden Point thing though. When I like think of the Lightning, I think it's Palat, Point, Kucherov, and then you got Stamkos, Sorelli, Killorn, and then the third line will be Paul with Colton in the middle, Hagel on the wing, and then the fourth line stays the same. I think that's kind of what it's been for their previous playoff runs more so, at least their top six. They like to split up Kucherov and Stamkos a lot, but I think if Tampa Bay goes with this kind of lineup, then I think the Leafs have a good chance, honestly. Like I think they line up pretty well. If that's the second line, Sorelli, Killorn, Hagel, I think they're losing a little bit of something there if they don't have Stamkos on that line,
Yeah, obviously it may not end up like that.
Yeah.
How I put it into the doc.
Right. These are Connor Somerville's Tampa Bay lines.
Yes. Basing it off of looking at like daily face-off. Although I have to say I couldn't figure out how to go back on games for daily face-off, so I had to use a different site, which is very annoying because they had the game lines for their game 82, which had Jan Ruta as a forward. So
oh yeah, right. I did notice that as well. Yep.
Yeah. Like it was a very depth-based lineup.
Yeah.
Didn't really have their stars, so it might be different. But that's just sort of how I put it in. I just think the Leafs are deeper at forward. I think defense, I probably give the edge to Tampa by a little bit. And then goaltending, obviously, Tampa.
Yeah.
I think
No
it really
doubt.
comes down to, can the Leafs outmuscle and outplay the Lightning's forwards? If they could do that, I think they got a really good shot. But they have to do that. And that's not a given.
It's asking for a lot for sure. And I don't know what they have to do, if I'm being completely honest. Tampa provides a lot. They can beat you with skill. They can beat you with hard work and grind you out. They have a lot of different playing styles, right? Like even a guy like Kucherov, he's known for his skill, but in the playoffs, he can hit you and he can be a difference maker in that way. And then they have the guys that can hit you like Nick Paul and Perry and Maroon. And the D-core is like, these guys are tall. Like these guys are big boys, like every single one of them, right? Cal Foote, Bogosian, everyone, Cernak, McDonough, Sergachev, Hedman, they're all tall. So it's going to be tough to get by those guys. And I think, honestly, I think the Leafs just got to play to their strength, that they're going all in on the skill and the speed. And I think that's how you're going to beat a Tampa team that might be tired, right? You just outwork them and you keep possession of the puck. That's the identity that Keefe and Dubas have wanted to instill on this team ever since that they took over. They want a skilled team that holds on to the puck for as long as possible. And when they lose it, they get it right back. That's the identity of this Leafs team. That's been their identity this year, at least. And I think they just got to stick to that game plan. They can't play a game that Tampa Bay wants them to play, and I think that's why we might only see one of Clifford or Simmons in the lineup. I think they want to just be skill-based. That's why Blackwell will be in there. And that's why maybe Abrazizi has a shot at even being in the lineup at some point in the playoffs.
I think the only way Abrazizi gets in is injuries. I don't see him getting in over guys like Clifford Simmons who have that playoff experience, which I'm not a huge fan of that, but it is a factor.
Yeah.
It is part of it.
I think here, I'll try and do my Leaf lines just going off of yours. So I'll do obviously Bunting, Matthews, Marner when healthy. That's got to be the big boys up front. They got to carry them. And then, I mean, this is the tricky thing, like, because it's Nylander, right? Where do you want to play him? You could play him with Tavares, and that's an offensive line, or you can just, make your depth even crazier and put Nylander on the third line. And he can carry that line for you. So I will probably go with Nylander on the third line. This is tough because Kosh is also a difference maker. I would do Mikheyev, Tavares, Kerfoot, I think. And then I would do Engvall, Kampf, and Nylander because I like Engvall and Kampf together a lot. And then
Kasha on the fourth line.
I would put Kasha on the fourth line. Yeah, I think he can play up and down the lineup. He's one of those guys that can play 1 through 4. And I think also just coming back from an injury, jumping into the top 6 right away might not be the best thing to do.
I don't know if it's the best thing to do to put a guy who's just coming off a concussion against Patrick Maroon, Corey Perry, and Pierre-Edouard Bellemare.
It's the fourth line, though. It's the fourth line. He's not going to get that much ice time, and you don't have to play him against their fourth line either. I think Kosh will be a guy that kind of flip-flops throughout the lineup, third, fourth line, and maybe gets a shot on the second. And honestly, looking at your lines, you have Kasha on the second line right now. That's kind of what Keefe is leaning towards, I think. That's like the projected lines in practice. So he could start there. But just the fact that he is coming back from injury, jumping right into playoffs is worrisome to me. So I would probably lower him to the fourth line and probably do Kasha, Blackwell, and Clifford right now. And it sucks that I would scratch Spezza, and he's gonna make it into the lineup at some point in the series, no doubt. But at the same time, I think Clifford provides some more speed and physicality that Spezza might be lacking, even though Spezza is great on the power play, second line, and he can score.
Every game we're getting a different fourth line.
Yeah.
I think nobody plays back-to-back games unless they play just out of their minds.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, unless they get like 3 goals.
Yeah, exactly. I think Spezza probably factors in later in the series because of his ability to win faceoffs, his offensive threat too, and he's sort of been a driver behind this team. But again, this is ignoring injuries. There's going to be injuries.
Yeah.
But I think this team's a lot more prepared for if that happens.
Yeah.
Compared to prior seasons. They're just a deeper, more solid team, and they're going to cause problems for Tampa in the same way Tampa's going to cause problems for the Leafs. It's going to be a really good matchup. My prediction is it goes 7, and I think the Leafs take it just because they have home ice advantage. But I could see it going either way. I think it's going to be a long series, though.
It should be a long series, right? Like, I think it could go, Leafs in 7. Yeah, I could definitely see that. I think, you don't want to push it to 7, especially if we're Leafs fans. We always know that it's going to go 7 or it's going to go 5 games. If you look at the Columbus series, it always comes down to that final game, and we lose and we get shut out or only 1 goal. But yeah, home ice advantage is huge in front of fans, and it would be really fitting, to exercise our demons at home in Game 7 against the back-to-back reigning Stanley Cup champions. So that'd be a cool thing to do. Or I'll say Tampa Bay in 6 if Tampa wins. It'd be a shorter series, I think, and I don't know. It's gonna be back and forth. I can see it going either way. I don't know. I'm nervous. I am nervous though. Tampa's a great team, and it's gonna be a hell of a challenge. But I'm telling you, if the Leafs manage to win this series, do you know how crazy it will be if we beat the 2-time Stanley Cup champions, in a playoff series to win our first series since 2004? Like, we would think that this is our year. Honestly, there'd be a parade.
Already insufferable. We'd be even worse if the Leafs win this series.
Yeah. And it would be so heartbreaking if we lose to Florida in the next series.
Yes. And odds are it'll be Florida, but you'll have to check out our channel later because Aiden hasn't done his bracket challenge. We're going to do it live record it.
Mhm.
So make sure to come back, check that out, see how wrong he is, and hear what I picked because I've already done mine. But in terms of the biggest storylines for this series, what I think is going to be the decider, goaltending. Is Campbell on his game? Is Vasilevsky on his game? Because Vasilevsky wasn't good in the month of April. I think he had like a 904 save percentage. He wasn't good, period. Campbell was feeling himself. He was
Yeah.
playing really, really well. Leaves first round history. Can they get over that hump? Can they finally exercise those demons?
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of mental, I think, on that front. So can they finally get past that? And injuries. How will Bunting play? Will Kasha be 100%? Will there be any other big injuries? You know, if
Yeah.
Braden Point goes down, how much of an impact will that have? If,
yeah.
knock on wood, Austin Matthews goes down, is that it for the series? Can the Leafs find a way? Injuries are going to be a big part of this series.
We haven't really talked much about Matthews and Marner, but they got to show up in this series, no doubt. If they don't, then they'll lose. Like Matthews has to be the most dominant player on the ice every single game.
Yeah.
Like 60 goal scorer. He's got to do it.
If he isn't, he's got to neutralize whoever he's going up against. Because while their defensive forwards are very good defensively, they're also huge threats on offense, i.e. Braden Point. So if you can shut him down, allow Tavares to carry a bit more of the load, Nylander to carry a bit more of the load, I like the Leafs' chances a bit more. But Matthews has to be dominant. He has to control this series, and he has to set the tone.
Yep.
If he doesn't set the tone, the Leafs aren't going to stand a chance.
That's his nickname, right? Tone. That's what they call him. Tone.
Tony. Isn't it Tony?
No, it's Tone. It's just Tone.
I thought it was.
It's like attaboy Tone.
All right. Well, there you go. Weird way to end it, but you know.
He's got to set the tone, like you said, right? Maybe his tone.
Got to set the tone. He's got to leave his mark on this series.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the greatest Leaf seasons of all time in tears and how it always ends. But make sure to come back to our channel. We're going to have a complete prediction for the entire playoffs, doing the NHL's bracket challenge either later today or I'm not sure when Aiden will get it up for, but
probably later today. Yeah. Yep.
Come back, check it out because it's always fun seeing how wrong we'll be. So see how wrong we'll be.
Peace.
Peace.